Hello boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm for Classic and welcome to BenchART. So for today what I do every day is Avowed. I'm trying to run this game. Trying is I think the correct word. To run Avowed with the GTX 1650 Super and see how it fares. And the experience have been so far a little bit mixed up. So when I did start the game, we start the game in a linear fashion, so not on the open world. It's kind of a open dungeon. And the performance was really great with a mix of in between low settings and medium with FSR 3 in its quality mode. The performance was really great. It was in mixed up. It was mixed up in between 50 to 60 frames per second, so I had high hopes for the performance. But as soon as I did reach this place, as you can see in here, which is apparently the main city or the first city of the game, I'm not entirely sure. The performance it is, well, considerably much more worse. So I'm running at the moment the game at 1080p using absolutely low settings and using a disaster FSR3 in its performance mode at 1080p. And as you can see, performance it is above 30. There is some stutterings here and there. I'm having a very high RAM usage as well as VRAM usage. Although those settings doesn't look really good because you can see a lot of shadows popping in front of you. So my recommendation is to take the performance penalty and just use shadow quality to medium. In this case, since there is a lot of popping of objects too, I decide to also increase the VM distance to medium. So you only need to increase these two settings, and especially the shadow quality to medium. The performance penalty is not really very big, but it makes a huge difference when it comes to the shadow popping. So as you can see, there is barely any shadow popping, although the shadows looks a lot of dithering, so they look very blurry and noisy. Well, that's just typical Unreal Engine 5 stuff when using, I believe, SVM shadows. Not entirely sure if this is the SVM shadows, I'm just assuming that it is. But performance so far, as you can see, it does look really great. Still, it is not 60 frames per second as the main area, or 50 to 60, but it's still above 30. The only issue that I have it is there is a lot of traversal stuttering in here, and I also think that there is some other stuttering. I don't think that it is. This is shader compilation. I don't think that it is the issue. I think it's really the fact that we don't have enough to spare on the GPU, and that also performance penalties the game. So I'm having at the moment 20 frames per second, just because I'm near these two NPCs for some reason. So performance is a little bit mixed bag in that sense. And if you think that, okay, so you are in the open world, you are in the city. No, I'm not. I'm no longer in the city. This is the open world part. So you can find enemies at this place and fight them. So yeah, performance is a little bit stuttering-ish. I wouldn't mind to have an experience around 30 frames per second. Although having an experience around 30 frames per second and playing with low settings or low to medium settings in an Unreal Engine 5 game, it's kind of tough because your game might be running okay with these settings, but there is a lot of noise in the visual quality. Most of them it's Lumen's fault. Others, it's really the FSR3 that we are running in performance mode. So basically, we are upscaling from, I believe, 540p to 1080p. So it's well, it's almost a PS2 resolution, but thanks to the upscaling, it doesn't really look like it. It does look like native 1080p, to be honest. And FSR3 it isn't usually very good, but for some reason in this game it is quite good. Although there is a lot of smearing and a lot of trails and ghosting caused by the FSR3. I mean, yeah, FSR3 does look really good in this game, but yeah, there is around the characters and the foliages and the stuff like that. It's well, it is really bad. All right, so let's try just to cap the game to 30 frames per second and enable VSync just to see if frame times are stable. Keep in mind that I'm also recording, so yeah, that takes a toll in its VRAM usage. But yeah, the frame times are a little bit all over the place, so it isn't really going to stabilize in here. So as you can see, when there is foliage and transparencies, there is a lot of noise caused by the FSR 3. So yeah, it's not really the experience that I do recommend. I think that part of the issues that we have with the game, of course, the 1650 Super is not really an hot rod at the moment. Far from it. But I do think that the VRAM is one of the main responsibles for the stuttering, and also because of the low performance that we are having. Um, I do think that the game should perform much better when you have a GPU with enough VRAM and enough power, of course. That also makes sense. But the 1650 Super, despite it does run, the experience is not really great. Fortunately for us, even the game with this mix in between low and medium settings, it does look really good, to be honest. I mean, aside from the noise from the FSR 3 and from the shadows and from the lumen and all that kind of stuff, aside from that, I mean, the game does look really good. Alright, so let's just do an experience. So let's change up the FSR 3 to its quality mode just to see how much GPU usage I'm having at the moment. So I believe it have gone from 70% I do believe to something in between 80 to 90. And let me just use TSR. And for some reason TSR usually is superior to FSR 3, but it's not really the case in this game. I can see a lot of instability on the trees and on the grass while using TSR, so I don't really understand. So that's really the performance that you can expect from Avowed. It's hard to recommend, to be honest, to play like this. Not only because of performance, stuttering and stuff like that, um, but also because of noise and caused by the upscaling solutions and yeah, and mostly because of lumen and all that kind of stuff. When using low to medium settings in Unreal Engine 5, there is a lot of lumen trails and noise, so it's really up to you, but for me it's quite distracting. I would prefer to play with a higher setting. But it is playable, and you can play it like this if you want. You can probably play the game from beginning to the end. But let me just say that the VRAM is clearly on its limits, the RAM usage was on its limits, and it's causing big performance issues in here. So I think that's all, guys. Hope you did enjoy the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.